What I want to speak today is about the technology in the TMS. So I call it 2.0 because it was 6 years ago, I think, 5 years ago, and 5.5. I did a presentation in the Arendt House for ATEL. It was in December 2019. At that time, we went to Luxembourg by car because we were afraid of taking the train. I don't know if you remember. It was in December 2019. And we spoke about the technology that were coming out soon for the TMS. And at this stage, we saw that the, let's say, big data, artificial intelligence around machine learning, instant payment, robotic process automation, blockchain, etc., and APIs, as you mentioned, Sanae, were part of the technology of the future. So that's why today we are looking at what was planned 5 years ago, let's say, and what we have today about those technology, and maybe what will come next in the coming 5 or 6 years, let's say. So just to mention that we had also a PwC survey at that time, mentioning nearly the same technology that were about to emerge at that time. So first, I will ask you to tell me what technology you implemented since 2019. So this is the first poll, first quiz. So if you have your mobile phone, you should be able to scan the QR code and select one of the answers. You're cheating me or no? Artificial intelligence first? Ah, okay, business intelligence, yeah. Okay. So I'm quite surprised, but not completely. So first, not surprised that business intelligence and data analytics is the first technology that have been implemented since 2019. What is interesting as well, and Sanae mentioned it, is about API, and we will talk about this a bit later. What it surprised me a bit is about artificial intelligence already at this stage. So maybe we are more speaking about machine learning, and I will speak about this just after. A bit surprised that instant payment is not that high in the technology that you've implemented. And I'm not surprised at all about RPA and blockchain, because RPA is a kind of a solution to manage something that is not working well, because you need to implement automation with a tool, external tool for manual operations, for instance. And blockchain, there were some missing, let's say, use cases at that time. We were speaking about blockchain, but we don't know what for exactly. Thank you for your participation. 52 is good, yeah. So let's look at what is the reality now about those technologies and what have been implemented, let's say, by TMS vendor. So it's not surprise, business intelligence. So now you can find in all TMS provided by vendors, you can find a business intelligence. You can find very nice reports having multi-axis reporting with a lot of data on your payment, on your cash, on your risk transactions, etc. Second, most of the TMS now are providing instant treasury, I would say, with payments, but also with bank statements, with connectivity, direct connectivity with banks, and with instant visibility on the cash and instant payment. That's not a surprise. And API actually is a kind of a method, a way to implement these instant treasury, but not only, it's also a way to connect all the different systems. It could be money market fund portals, it could be 360T or FXall for FX transactions. And API now is also a part, let's say, of commodities on the TMS. So this is something that you should look at as a commodity. It means that it must be part of the solution that you are selecting or replacing, sorry. And what about AI? You mentioned AI. Yes, there is AI today in the TMS. I'm not speaking only for Kyriba, of course, but you have AI regarding fraud detection, cash forecasting for predictive data, and this is already part of TMS. But this is not the AI we were thinking, we are thinking now, because in 2019, we were not speaking about generative AI. It came in force in 2020. So in 2019, no generative AI. So just to mention the EACT survey in 2024, to show that, the priorities in terms of treasury were quite similar to the one we have in 2025. It was not about technologies, it was about, let's say, core treasury activity. We see a bit of digitization of treasury, a bit of technology as well here, and also the fraud and cyber risk. I mentioned those because they are, let's say, related to technology. But what is important for me is this, the sentence here is something from the report, François, that the technology is a tool to streamline, to optimize, to become more efficient. And it's not just because you want to be the first one to use a technology. So let's have a look now on the technology of today or tomorrow. What I wanted to mention here is that technology is not always new. Why? Because there are some very important aspects of a TMS that you absolutely require in order to be efficient. The first one is the bank connectivity. So bank connectivity, it could be seen as let's say, a technology because there are APIs, there are a lot of technology behind, but it's, let's say, a very important point of a TMS. The second point is the security. It's not an option to have a TMS that is secured, and it required, of course, a lot of technology behind in terms of encryption, in terms of testing, what we call a penetration test. So it's also very important to have a look on these aspects. And third is the automation, but it's related to API. So it is important that the TMS is able to, let's say, provide end-to-end user experience with a very, very smooth process inside the TMS. So this is the three aspects I wanted to mention, because technology is not always something new that will be difficult to handle or that need to be, let's say, not at the core of the TMS. So let's look at now what are the other technologies that we could find sooner or later in the TMS. So I will talk about three aspects of those technologies. The first one is the generative AI. So we are speaking a lot now about the generative AI, and we consider that generative AI will become a kind of assistant for the treasurer. It will not replace, as we can see everywhere, it will not replace all the people in the company, but for sure it will help a lot, especially if the data are here. So that's why data is very important, and you mentioned it, Sané. It's very important that the generative AI has all the data that is useful in order to give the right advice, the right recommendation. So we can use today Gemini, ChatGPT, or Mistral, of course, it's important. But you can see that because they have a lot of information at disposal in the internet. Tomorrow, when you have your assistant, your Gen AI included in your TMS, of course, it will not be a public assistant with your data everywhere on the internet. So it means that you need to have your full set of data on your TMS directly. And you will be able to ask with a prompt, to ask some advice, some recommendations in order to take a decision very quickly. Another point is related to the scripting. It means that the assistant will not only be able to give you advice or recommendation, it will be able also to build some piece of code like we do already as a programmer. You can use a generative AI to help you in the programming of some, let's say, full part of programs. But tomorrow, we could ask also a generative AI to adapt a format for you, because the bank has sent you new specifications on payment format, and you need to implement this in your TMS. You can ask the generative AI to do it for you, because it will automatically analyze the document, the specifications, and it will create automatically the code and the XML format and template for the payment format. The second point is related to API. API, we already used API, but now we are going to another level of usage of the API. And it's more related to, let's say, having a global automation on your TMS, but also on other aspects of your information system. It could be another system, for instance, or it could be maybe external system. So it means that we see now some companies, some corporates asking their IT guys to have a full user experience from the TMS to the ERP to the external data in a single user interface. And this is made available thanks to the APIs. So next is about the digital currencies. We see, digital currencies, we have the crypto we know, but also we have the stable coins. And especially for the cross-border payments, we see more and more use case around the cross-border payments based on stablecoin using blockchain. I hope you don't worry. You can ask questions after, but really the important point here is that we see use case for the blockchain. So it means that the initial topic that we had in 2019, now we can see some real interesting use case, and it's not based, of course, on the fiat currencies as we mentioned then, but on some stable coins such as USDC, for instance. And this is already live. It's not a prototype today, and it's let's say the deployment is beginning only. And it means that it will bring some real time also, because blockchain is around 15-20 minutes. So it's not completely real time, because instant payment is 15 seconds, 20 seconds maximum. But still, it's quite quick compared to a flat file that you can send and you don't have confirmation immediately. With blockchain and stablecoins, you have confirmation immediately. So this is what we see at the moment, and I'm sure that at Kyriba we will provide some more information regarding the generative AI in the coming weeks. I cannot disclose right now, otherwise my colleague will shout at me, but stay tuned. So now the question is, what kind of technology you think or you plan to implement in the coming, let's say, years? I will not put too much pressure on you. Yeah, interesting. And it's not surprising, because probably you are using already for your own usage the generative AI. It's really magic. Each time you need to ask a question to someone, you don't ask your colleague, you ask Gemini or your husband, because he's more reliable than your colleague. Just to give you an example, we have at Kyriba our own generative AI, internal generative AI, collecting all the information, all the data from all the departments within Kyriba. And we can ask information about the product, about the project, any type of information from Kyriba using a generative AI. So it means that I don't need to call a colleague right now. I can first ask the generative AI, and then if I don't have enough information, then I can ask a colleague. And it's very, very efficient. Very, very efficient. Thank you for your participation. Now, just a few recommendations. You know, my role at Kyriba is to support prospects and customers to understand where is the value in adopting a technology, implementing Kyriba. So just to give you some, let's say, some cookies if you plan to implement a TMS or adopt a new technology. So first, this is something I found, of course, on the internet. So you look perfect, and it's easy to look perfect when you never did anything. So it means that, okay, you need to try anyway. But the problem is to convince probably your executive management to convince to start a project. So in this case, what we recommend is really to have a regular business process review, maybe twice a year or once a year already would be good, and to have a review quite global, not constraining to one aspect of the process, or on payment, on cash flow forecasting, on risk management, and to have a discussion within the team, sometimes also with external consultant, to do a review. And really to expand the scope, and then trying to find where is the value in the pain identified. So it means if I identify some needs, some pains, what I will gain if I change something. And in this case, you will be able to play with this model, identify what will be the benefits in terms of hours that you will save, in terms of financial benefits that you could make. It means also that if you don't gain anything, maybe it's not worth doing the project. Warren Buffett used to say, the price is what you pay, the value is what you get. At the end of the day, if you decide to invest into a technology, you need to have, let's say, a ROI on it. And then the objective is to present this future value, and then to get the exec sponsorship within the company, so you can start this project. At the end of the day, it is important to check that the value you expected, you finally got it, and to show the result. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Cyrille. So if we want to summarize, we could say that it takes time to innovate. It's slower than we initially thought, 1925, but it comes. So and we see solutions that are emerging. It's also good to know that you help customers to set up return on investment, because you rightly mentioned it's great to change the system, but it's not innovation for innovation. You need to justify that you are creating value. By the way, I like your comment on AI, and it's a concern for us. And in the Journey to Treasury, you can find it on the website. So last edition, we are working on the 10th, but on the 9th edition, the last 3 chapters are on AI. And we've tried to define what are the areas where AI could bring some, let's say, quick wins for corporate treasurers. And so it's funny to say that we discussed with consultants, with IT vendors, bankers, to define where AI could help. So we know that it's a powerful technology, but we don't know exactly where it will come first to bring solutions.
Yeah, and it would be good maybe to come after 5 years and say, do the same survey and find that the generative AI will be at the first technology that you have implemented as the others.
It's why in the comment from Sané, so we see that replacement of existing solution or implementation of a TMS, it's prior in terms of priorities compared to the digital transformation, meaning using of robots and AI. Interesting. Maybe just a question before closing. So connectivity is still, bank connectivity is still an issue. So in countries like Luxembourg, we see that some banks are not supporting EBIX or not the right version of EBIX. API, it's still an issue. Swift, yeah, although we are also changing to MX format. So how do you explain this kind of difficulties to connect some banks in Luxembourg? I'm talking more about the smaller banks. We could work.
We see a lot of, let's say, we have some small banks that are, old banks, and we have small banks that are very neo banks or very new banks. And in both cases, it's difficult to connect because the first one, they don't know how, let's say, to implement APIs or Swift. There are some of them, they don't want to be part of Swift. And on the new banks, they don't want to do host-to-host or EBIX or Swift. They don't just do API. So we have to be, the TMS, let's say, will have to be flexible enough to propose different protocols because API is a protocol, Swift is a protocol, host-to-host, EBIX, etc. And to be able to cover all the banks. So just to mention, I could not disclose the name, but we had a prospect with 467 banks. So it's a lot, but the objective for him, it's really to have all of them connected. Otherwise, there's only 90% of the cash that will be visible every day. That's not acceptable. So that's why it's still a challenge, the bank connectivity.
It's also something that you give some support to your customer to define what is the best channel to use for connectivity.
Yes, exactly. We showed them the protocols, all the formats that we are supporting, and to recommend what is the best solution for you. Of course, for this situation I was just mentioning, Swift is the best solution, but it's not always the case.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
If you have any question, Cyrille and the colleagues will still be around. So thank you very much.